How do you survive an impalement injury? Is this how you bandage up a wound? And why does Zoro have a terrible sense of direction? Hey guys, and welcome back to the channel. In today's video we're going to be breaking down Zoro's biggest fights in the One Piece anime. And much like last week where we calculated Luffy's medical bills, we're going to be doing the same today for Zoro. So make sure to stick around to the end of the video to find out who comes out on top. Also, let us know down below if there's any other characters in this series that you'd like me to break down next. Otherwise, let's put Zoro up on the screen, and if you're ready, let's begin. So, here we start with a little bit of Zoro's backstory, and we better understand his motivations to becoming the world's best swordsman. But taking a blow to the head, particularly if it causes a KO, puts you at greater risk of suffering from a concussion. And funnily enough, concussions can cause you to have chronic symptoms of headache, memory loss and disorientation, which might account why Zoro gets lost all the time. Okay, so after saving some townspeople from almost certain death, Zoro agrees to pay for the crime by starving for a month in captivity. But how long can a person truly survive without food? Well, the record's held by a man called Angus Barberi, who went 382 days without food. And amazingly, over this time course, he lost 125 kilos, or 19 stone. Now, the danger to Zoro with taking on this length of fast is a condition called refeeding syndrome. This occurs when you start eating again and you have an imbalance in your body's electrolytes. Now, the reason this is important is that it can lead to things like arrhythmias of the heart, seizures and even death. So I'd say that once he's completed this period of starvation, he'd need regular blood test monitoring, and this would come in at a cost of $700 for the week. Oh, okay, so a stab wound to the left side of his abdomen by Buggy the Clown. Now, he's a character with very interesting anatomy that I don't fully understand. But for Zoro here, we're looking at potential damage to his stomach, kidneys and intestines. So he's going to need an urgent laparotomy to have a look inside and determine the extent of the damage. And this comes in at a cost of around $60,000. Zoro just needs to make sure not to pull that out before he gets there. Oh, so facial burns, and then he targets Zoro's already injured left side. And I do find it funny that most wounds in the One Piece anime are dealt with just by wrapping people up with bandages. But of course, in the real world, facial burns are really difficult to treat. You can lose your vision through damage to the eyes, and the skin damage can mean you can lose the features that make up the appearance of your face. And so the safest thing is for him to see the plastic surgeons to see if he needs any skin grafting, and this is going to come in at a cost of around $50,000. Oh gosh, so a catapult injury to the back here as Usopp hits the wrong person. Now, catapults are definitely powerful weapons that can lead to significant bruising and sometimes even draw blood. And I think you'd be really unlucky to suffer a bone fracture unless somebody was targeting the skull. So other than pain relief here, I think Zoro will be okay. But taking a look at those feline claws that end up scratching at his chest, he might need to get a rabies shot, which comes in at around $30. Funnily enough, one of the symptoms of rabies is actually hydrophobia, or the fear of water. So if he doesn't get that shot, he may end up with the same weakness that other devil fruit users have.
Roronoa Zoro!
Oh gosh, this must be one of Zoro's worst injuries in the series as a whole. I mean, although that looks like a very small blade, there's no way that hasn't penetrated the whole way through to his heart. I mean, we even hear it cracking as it goes through the ribs, penetrating through the chest. And if this blade is penetrated into the sac that surrounds the heart, you'll end up bleeding into this, which restricts the heart's beating, leading to death. Now, the only way to manage this is by performing something called a pericardiocentesis, where using an ultrasound probe, you insert a needle into this sac and drain off that blood. This procedure costs around $25,000, but I don't see anyone around who can perform it.
背中の傷は剣士の恥だ。見事。生き急ぐな。若き力よ。
Oh god, so Mihawk has effectively performed a thoracotomy here, opening up Zoro's chest. Now, believe it or not, this procedure normally costs around $130,000. Now, if Zoro's somehow able to survive this, he's going to need to close up that wound quickly to help prevent blood loss and infection. And a quick way of doing this is by using surgical staples. Now, although it might seem a little archaic, the advantage of doing this is you close the wound up quicker, reducing blood loss and the risk of infection. Nonetheless, I think I'd still give Zoro some antibiotics at a cost of $75.
その自慢の花へし折ってやら。バカが。
Oh god, so a shark attack here from Arlong. Now that's what I call sticking your nose in other people's business. But it looks like penetrating trauma into Zoro's chest wall. And if that penetrates deep enough, it can cause a collapsed lung or pneumothorax, which would then need re-inflating with a chest drain, which would come in at a cost of around $5,000. You know, I think Zoro's got some of the worst injuries in this anime altogether. What do you guys think?
力で私に勝てる男は癒しない。お前はこれで終わりだ。 Oh god, a pair of brass knuckles to the head. Now, we've already established in my previous videos how damaging brass knuckles can be on the human body. So taking a hit to the head like this is definitely going to cause some facial fractures. And the average cost of facial reconstructive surgery is a jaw-dropping $56,000.
いい機会だ。
Oh gosh, so a Gomo Gomo no punch strong enough to push Zoro through a wall. Now, the only thing I have to compare to this is something like a wrecking ball, and certainly if somebody was hit by one of these, you'd be expecting multiple injuries around the body. So I think the safest bet would be to perform a skeletal survey on Zoro to look for any underlying fractures, coming in at a cost of $750. That doesn't include any surgery he might later need if any fractures are found. Oh, okay, so abdominal trauma with these spinning blades. This definitely looks like a nasty injury. Now, the concern here is that getting cut by a rotating blade is likely going to cause a wound with jagged edges, rather than linear cuts. And this means that trying to stitch it up and control the bleeding can be really challenging. So not only is Zoro going to need some stitches, coming in at a cost of $3,000, but he's likely going to need a blood transfusion also, coming in at a further $1,000. I guess at least now he knows how to cut through steel. Okay, I'm not quite sure what's happened here, whether he's been hit by a bullet from that gun or whether he's torn a muscle on landing. Certainly falling from that height and landing on your feet does put you at a greater risk of your tendon snapping off the bone, which would certainly leave you limping. And if that's what we're dealing here, Zoro might need that reattached with surgery, which comes in at a cost of $15,000. I don't know if that facial expression is due to pain or if Zoro's seen his medical bill.
おい、チョッパー。おい。おい、そ そっちは気をつけろ。
Oh god, barbed wire. This is definitely going to be a nasty wound. Now, the problem with barbed wire is that every barb on that wire acts as a hook, and once it's hooked itself into the skin, any further movement is going to cause you further damage. So ideally, despite this being really painful, the last thing you'd want to be doing is thrashing around, as it's likely going to make the wound far worse. Also, if we haven't given Zoro a tetanus jab so far, he's definitely going to need one now, despite him being fearful of needles.
んなくだらねえこと言うのはここを逃げ切ってからにしろ。
つけるようになったんだ。ゾロ！早くロビンに謝れ！
Give up?
So, I knew that Chopper was a doctor, but I didn't realise that he was a chiropractor too. Now, I know some doctors have an issue with their patients going and seeing a chiropractor. Personally, I don't really have any opinion on it. All I'd say is if you're going to go and see someone, just make sure they're insured and they've got a qualification to tell you they know what they're doing.
体が動かねえ。貴様の関節を錆びつかせた。そのまま全身を錆びつかせてやる。山の下!
So this is pretty cool. He's causing all of his joints to rust up. But it kind of reminds me of a fight that we see in the JoJo anime where something very similar happens. But theoretically, is something like this possible? Well, I think what they're getting at here is that he's causing the iron found within Zoro's hemoglobin to rust up. And unfortunately, in real life, this just isn't possible. Oh gosh, so no sooner has Lucci taken out Luffy than he then kicks out Zoro with him. Now, with the way that he's been kicked in the chest there, you'd be worried about multiple fractures to the ribs, and possibly even a fracture to the breastbone, which would be incredibly painful. Now, one option in really severe cases is to try to bring back together the breastbone and ribs using plates and screws. To add insult to injury, it also comes in at a cost of $20,000.
もはや貴様に勝ち目はないわい。なんて猛襲だ。あの女と同様に正義の名のもとに死ね。
Oh god, getting kicked and slashed by a giraffe with swords. I can't imagine a more deadly combination. Now, I've seen patients getting kicked by horses and left paralysed, so I can't imagine what it would be like getting hit by a giraffe. I mean, we can see that Zoro's pretty battered and bruised, but he's still up on his feet, and I can't see any obvious severe injuries. But he may need some stitches for those lacerations he's taken to the chest. Oh god, they're effectively playing beach ball volleyball here with Zoro's body. But blunt force trauma to the abdomen can be really serious, leaving you with multiple injuries to internal organs like the spleen. Now, if your spleen does rupture, you'd need urgent surgery to remove it, and this comes in at a charge of $50,000. And if that isn't bad enough, your spleen plays a role in fighting off infections, so once you've had it removed, you'll need to go on prophylactic antibiotics for the rest of your life. Now, doing the math, this would come in at a cost of $42 per week, or $2,000 per year. If Zoro lives for 50 years, that's a further $100,000.
こいつの体から弾き飛ばしたもの、痛み、そして疲労を試してみる。
Yeah, so I kind of remember this as one of those iconic moments in the One Piece anime, and it's one of those defining moments for Zoro as a character. Taking on someone else's fatigue and pain as your own is a real difficult concept to get your head around. But I guess a more useful question would be, how much pain can the human body tolerate? Well, your pain threshold really comes down to physical, genetic, and psychological factors. For example, Zoro has sustained so many life-threatening injuries that he's more likely going to have a higher pain threshold compared to anyone else. Also, the way that Zoro expresses pain by being more stoic might mean that he can tolerate it better than others who might otherwise faint, just by getting a pinprick. Lastly, there are genetic conditions where you're born being unable to sense pain. So an explanation could be that Zoro has far fewer pain fibers in the skin, meaning less pain signals are going to the brain, meaning he better tolerates pain altogether. All I know is that this is probably one of Zoro's most badass moments in the whole series.
不自由だな人間は
ゾロの息がやべえ。
Okay, so here we see that Hody is trying to drown Zoro, with him taking a blow to the chest. Now interestingly, the world record for holding your breath underwater is 24.5 minutes. That's completely mind-boggling. Importantly, if someone is drowning and has then lost consciousness, there is a way to recover them. What you need to do is to commence CPR. This will ensure that their circulation is maintained. Some good news for Zoro is that it's a free treatment for everyone. Oh gosh, so a scythe straight through the chest, effectively impaling him, but it kind of looks like Zoro intentionally took it that way. Fortunately for him, it's on the right side of his chest rather than his left, so he's definitely avoided his heart, but he's likely got another pneumothorax, needing a further chest drain to reinflate the lung. At this point, it's probably worth just leaving the chest drain in with a tap on it, because I can't imagine this is the last time he'll get impaled. Okay, so here we're seeing that Zoro is getting completely crushed by the effects of gravity. And I'm guessing by the fact that the ground below him gets completely crushed also, that we're not just talking about a slight increase in gravity. But what would be the impact of this on your body generally? Well, let's say you went into an environment of 10 times Earth's normal gravity. Your body would be crushed under its own weight, and your blood would pool on the side of your body that was closest to the planet. Also, your eyes would be so heavy that they'd drop out of your eye sockets, and your brain would be squeezed against your skull. So I guess what I'm getting at is that gravity manipulation can be as gruesome as it is an awesome power. I like how we're seeing here that Zoro's muscles just grow under instruction. I wish it was that easy. But then we see that he takes several crucifixion nails to various limbs in the body. But I'm sure something like this is just like a bit of acupuncture for a character like Zoro. But in all seriousness, penetrating injuries to bones can cause osteomyelitis, which is a chronic infection of the bone. Now, if left untreated, this can result in people needing an amputation. So it's a good thing that we gave Zoro those lifelong antibiotics. Oh, so Zoro takes a hit from Kaido's Thunder Mace. Interestingly though, it appears as though we're seeing purple lightning coming from his mace rather than thunder. But taking a lightning bolt through the body can have a devastating impact, causing thermal burns and frying up your muscles like a KFC chicken. It can also disrupt the electrical activity in your heart, leading to an arrhythmia which could cause your heart to stop. So for an injury like this, Zoro would really need to go to the intensive care setting for at least 24 hours, and that comes at a cost of $30,000. And if he suffers from a permanent arrhythmia of the heart, he might need to have a pacemaker put in to keep things regulated, and that also comes at a cost of a further $60,000.
そいつを頼む、クロアチア。ゾロやおそらく骨を2、30本やられてる。腹木で固定し仰向けにして意識と呼吸を確保しろ。
God, I love Zoro's approach. So, if you're gonna break a bone, why not break a whole lot of them? and we hear that Trafalgar Law says that he's broken between 20 to 30 of his bones. Remember, you've only got 200 in the body. But I do like how Sanji's just wrapping him up there like he's some sort of food item. If I was seeing him as a doctor, we'd call this a major trauma case and would have to again get him a skeletal survey to determine what is broken and decide how we're going to treat him. So that's a further $750, and then he's going to need to see the bone doctors after. I'll estimate a further cost of $100,000, which will include casts, surgery and rehabilitation. So guys, this is Zoro's final medical bill, and it's pretty crazy comparing it to Luffy's. Anyway, make sure to let me know down below which character you'd like me to cover next. And if you're free just now, why not check out one of these two videos? Otherwise, as always, thanks for watching guys, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks.